I was in New York City on 9/11, and I remember, so I was in Brooklyn, like only a few miles from the World Trade Center. People were stopping and asking each other, people who you would pass on the street but never talk to, were stopping and asking everyone, how's your family? Everyone okay? All right, are you fine? Like there was this like community spirit that you don't typically get in New York City. That part of it was kind of beautiful. And then of course governments do what they do and immediately manipulated that into launching wars that they wanted from before 9/11 that had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11.
Yeah.
Which is,
Also, the Patriot Act was a bunch of shit they had tried to pass for a while, for years. And everyone's like, what are you fucking crazy?
Well, this is the thing, and I guess maybe it's partly like my age because I was 18 at the time, and this is like my coming of age, time.
Right.
But I will never stop being furious about all of that shit. And this is like still to this day, I'm sure you see it when I'm on podcasts with you and doing debates and stuff. But I'm so angry over the war in Iraq and the subsequent wars and Libya and Syria and Somalia and Yemen and all of them. But specifically because, like, all these guys, the neoconservatives, the N-word that I'm not supposed to bring up, even though, by the way, Douglas Murray wrote a book called Neoconservatism, Why We Need It. But when I say the word neoconservative, be careful what you're watering here or something like that.
Is that what they say?
They,
I didn't know that this was an issue, that you can't discuss neoconservatism.
Well, that's Douglas said when I was on with him. He said, the N-word. When I brought it up, and then said, I'm watering something because I mentioned Wolfowitz.
Okay, so that's anti-Semitism he's leaning into. Well, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
You're talking about something incredibly important.
Well,
like neoconservatism, why would that be a thing that you can't discuss? That sounds crazy.
Well, I mean, I'd say the answer is that those guys got into power. They really hijacked American foreign policy after 9/11 because they happened to all be in power in the Bush administration. Then 9/11 happened on their watch. But if you go back and read the shit they read, and I will never stop talking about this because it's just too crazy. But if you read all of these guys, the guys who were in the George W. Bush administration, I mean, like the signatories on the Project for a New American Century, which was their think tank, the PNAC as it's called, were like Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz and Fife and Richard Pearl and David Wormser and the whole group who took over the government were all, and they wrote explicitly in the Project for a New American Century that they were like, look, okay, the Soviet Union has collapsed. We are, for the first time in human history, like the lone superpower in the world. So what we should do right now is fight multiple wars. Because no one threatens us, and so therefore we should fight multiple wars. Right now we have an opportunity to remake the world, overthrow the old Soviet sock puppet states, install our own states there, and guarantee, as the name says, the new American century of dominance, the 21st century. And they specifically said they want to overthrow Saddam Hussein, and then they specifically said and now this is something that the 9/11 truthers really held on to. I'm not sure. I think they might be overplaying their hand a little bit here, but they say, there's one document in the Project for a New American Century, you can find it online, where they straight up say, they go, now look, this is what we want to do, but we're unlikely to get mass American support for it short of another Pearl Harbor type event. And so a lot of people like Alex Jones and a lot of the 9/11 truthers would point to this phrase and go, see, this is the proof that they knew they needed another Pearl Harbor, so they planned their own Pearl Harbor. Now, that is not necessarily true. It doesn't necessarily prove that, but it certainly does change the way you think about their mind state when they sit there watching the towers get attacked. And they all, at the very least, they all went, we got it.